From beneath the fertile soil, deep roots pumped rainwater back upwards, and in the belly of an ancient tree, it mixed with the flavor of summer sunshine and poured into the tiny berries that sprouted from the center of delicate flowers. The hard little berries morphed from white to green, to pink to red, to purple to black. As they deepened in color and grew in size, they became plump and succulent. While they look like the blackberries that grow on thorny vines along the roadside, there is none of their cousin's tartness. The mulberry is instead far more sweeter, juicier, and tender. We recently had the lovely invitation from a neighbor here in Alabama to forage mulberries from his tree, which he believes is over 100 years old. I was only familiar with the old nursery song, "All Around the Mulberry Bush," so I was surprised to find an extremely large and elegant tree spreading its branches out in a wide radius and then curving back down to the ground like a berry-laden weeping willow. It felt like a safe haven inside, as it created a circular cave inside the radius of its limbs. The ground was scattered with a thick layer of fallen berries that had been shaken loose by the wind. It took very little to pick a mulberry. Now, a blackberry takes finger effort, but a mulberry, I learned, was actually easier to simply shake off of the limb. We put our buckets underneath and ran our fingers down the flexible branches, the way you would test a Christmas tree for its health, running your hand down to see if any pine needles fall off. Gently grasping a branch, we ran our hands down a section with our bucket underneath and let the ripe blackberries simply fall, plunk, 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 into the bowl. The unripened berries remained clinging to their stems, food for another bird on another day. The wind rustled the leaves all around us, and the girls spotted bird nests in the buffet above. We didn't need ladders because there were ample berries available to us on the ground level. There was more than enough on this single tree for us and the wildlife. All around us was vast fields of farmland, cows and corn and cotton. We'd waited all day for the sun to begin its descent and lessen its heat. The mulberry tree gave further shade, so we ducked into springtime and escaped the summer. We'd never tried a mulberry before, and were quite surprised at how joyfully sweet it was. It was a stark difference from the blackberries we'd been picking the 2 weeks before. Our host let me know about mulberry wine, and it's also used in pies, tarts, cordials, and teas. However, it is the mulberry leaves that are ecologically important, as the sole food source of the silkworm. The need for silkworms to make silk for us humans is why this plant has traveled over the centuries, from ancient Greece to Europe and eventually North America. A Babylonian myth, which Ovid incorporated in his Metamorphoses, attributes this reddish-purple color of the mulberry fruits to the tragic deaths of the lovers Pyramus and Thisbe. Meeting under a mulberry tree, Thisbe commits suicide by sword after Pyramus does the same, he having believed on finding her blood-stained cloak that she was killed by a lion. Their splashed, blood-stained, the previously white fruit, and the gods forever changed the mulberry's color to honor their forbidden love. Indeed, the mulberry juice does look like a bloodstain. I kneeled down to pick some lower-hanging berries and rose up with knees that looked badly scraped. I'd forgotten about the thick layer of berries covering the ground below. Later, I found this poem that I'd love to share with you. It beautifully captures a country day picking mulberries with friends. It's called The Mulberry Tree by James Whitcomb Riley, one of the most popular poets in American history. How lovely is it that something penned in the late 1800s still feels so true even today in 2022. Here it is, The Mulberry Tree. It's many's the scenes which is dear to my mind, as I think of my childhood so long left behind. The home of my birth, with its old puncheon floor, and the bright morning glories that growed round the door. The warped clapboard roof, where the rain it run off, into streams of sweet dreams as I laid in the loft, countin' all the joys that was dearest to me, and a-thinkin' the most of the mulberry tree. And today, as I dream with both eyes wide awake, I can see the old tree and its limbs as they shake, and the long purple berries that rained on the ground, where the pasture was bald, where we tromped it around. And again, peeking up through the thick leafy shade, I can see the glad smiles of the friends when I strayed with my little bare feet from my own mother's knee to follow them off to the mulberry tree. Leaning up in the forks, I can see the old rail, and the boy climbing up it, claw, tooth, and toenail, and in fancy can hear, as he spits on his hands, the ring of his laugh and the rip of his pants. But that rail led to glory as certain and sure as I'll never climb there by that route any more. What was all the green laurels of fame unto me, with my brows and the boughs of the mulberry tree? Then it's who can forget the old mulberry tree, that he knowed in the days when his thoughts was as free as the fluttering wings of the birds that flew out of the tall waving tops as the boys come about. Oh, a crowd of my memories, laughing and gay, is a climbing the fence of the pasture today, and a panting with joy, as us boys used to be, they go racing across for the mulberry tree. I thought that was a beautiful poem. When we were done, we made jars upon jars upon jars of the sweetest mulberry jelly. Only the tiniest amount of sugar was added because the berries were already so sweet. We made mulberry pancakes for days and also stained Jeremy's white Converse shoes a lovely new color. They morphed from purple to pink and finally to a grayish lavender. We will never forget the summer day we spent gathered beneath the branches of that abundant old tree. I'm very grateful for that experience.